Before you scroll, pause for just one moment, because the next few minutes could change how you see your life. Somewhere deep inside you, there is a version of you that knows you were meant for more than just surviving the day, paying the bills, and repeating the same routine. You didn't come this far just to feel stuck, tired, or unsure about your direction. You came this far because there is something inside you that refuses to quit, even when life gets heavy. Maybe you've tried before and failed. Maybe you've started strong and lost momentum. Or maybe you're standing at a crossroads right now, wondering if your future can really be different from your past. Here's the truth most people never hear. Your destiny is not written by your circumstances, your background, or your mistakes. It is rewritten by one decision you make when you're tired of staying the same. Stay with me until the end of this video, because the decision you're about to hear about isn't just motivational talk. It's the kind of decision that changes how you think, how you act, and how your future unfolds. And if you listen closely, you may realize that this message found you exactly when you needed it. The power of a definite decision lies in its ability to shift your life from drifting to directing, because most people live in a state of vague wanting where they hope for change but never clearly command it to happen, and the mind responds only to clarity, not to confusion. When you make a definite decision, you move from wishing to choosing, and this simple inner shift reorganizes your focus, your emotions, and your behavior around a single direction. A clear decision acts like a filter for your attention, helping you notice opportunities that were always present but invisible when your goals were unclear. And it also creates inner pressure to act, because your mind now seeks consistency between what you have decided and how you behave. Without a definite decision, your energy is scattered across doubts, alternatives, and distractions. But with one clear choice, your energy gathers into momentum, and momentum is what turns intention into results. A definite decision also builds self-trust, because every time you commit to a direction and follow through with even small actions, you send a signal to yourself that your word matters, and this strengthens your confidence from the inside out, rather than depending on external validation. Many people wait for motivation to appear before they decide, but in reality, motivation is created by decision. Because once you choose a path, your brain begins to generate reasons, ideas, and emotional fuel to support that choice. Even setbacks become different when you have made a definite decision, because obstacles are no longer signs to stop but feedback to adjust your approach, and this perspective keeps you moving forward instead of retreating into doubt. A definite decision also simplifies life, because when your direction is clear, you waste less time on distractions that do not serve your purpose, and you become more selective with your time, energy, and associations, which gradually reshapes your environment to support your growth. Over time, the repeated act of deciding firmly and acting consistently conditions your mind to expect progress, and this expectation influences how you interpret events, how quickly you recover from failure, and how boldly you take responsibility for your future, creating a powerful internal alignment where your thoughts, emotions, and actions move in the same direction, turning potential into lived reality. Burning desire backed by action is the force that transforms an ordinary wish into a living purpose, because desire alone can exist comfortably in imagination, but when it is joined with action, it begins to reshape identity, habits, and priorities. A burning desire is not a casual interest that fades when things become difficult. It is an emotional commitment that makes comfort feel less important than growth. And this intensity changes how you interpret challenges, because obstacles no longer feel like stop signs but like tests of how serious you are about your future. When desire is strong, the mind becomes more creative in finding ways forward, and instead of asking whether something is possible, you begin asking how it can be done, which opens pathways that were previously blocked by doubt. Action gives structure to desire by turning emotion into movement, and even imperfect action trains the brain to associate your goals with progress rather than fantasy, creating a feedback loop where each small step strengthens belief and each increase in belief fuels the next step. Many people wait to feel confident before they act, but confidence is built through action, because every time you move in the direction of your goal, you collect evidence that you are capable of growth, and this evidence gradually replaces fear-based stories with experience-based certainty. A burning desire also reorders priorities, because when something truly matters to you, distractions lose their power, and time that was once wasted begins to be invested with intention, creating a sense of urgency that is calm but relentless. When setbacks appear, desire keeps you emotionally anchored to your vision, and action keeps you practically engaged with the process, preventing disappointment from turning into surrender. Over time, this combination reshapes your self-image, because you stop seeing yourself as someone who dreams and start seeing yourself as someone who moves. And identity is one of the strongest drivers of behavior, so as your identity shifts, consistency becomes more natural. The union of desire and action also strengthens discipline, because discipline is no longer forced by external pressure but supported by inner meaning, and when your efforts are connected to something you deeply want, perseverance feels purposeful rather than painful, training your mind to associate effort with fulfillment and progress with personal power. Taking full responsibility for your life is the moment you stop handing your power to circumstances, people, and past events, and begin reclaiming your ability to shape your future through conscious choice. Responsibility does not mean blaming yourself for everything that has happened. It means recognizing that regardless of how you arrived here, your next step belongs to you. And this recognition is deeply liberating because it shifts your focus from what went wrong to what can be done now. When you accept responsibility, your language changes. You stop saying life is happening to you and start saying life is responding to you. And this subtle shift alters how your mind searches for solutions, because a mind that sees itself as powerless looks for excuses, while a mind that sees itself as responsible looks for options. This mindset increases your emotional resilience, because instead of feeling trapped by disappointment or regret, you view setbacks as information that can guide your next move, allowing you to learn without becoming stuck in self-judgment. Taking responsibility also sharpens your awareness of patterns in your behavior, because you begin to notice how certain habits, reactions, and choices produce predictable results, and this awareness gives you leverage to change what you repeat. Over time, this builds self-respect, because keeping your commitments to yourself, even in small ways, teaches your mind that you are someone who can be relied upon, and this internal trust reduces the need for external approval. Responsibility also clarifies your boundaries, because when you own your role and your outcomes, you become more selective about the environments you stay in and the influences you allow, recognizing that your surroundings shape your decisions. As you practice responsibility, your confidence grows from evidence rather than affirmation, because you see yourself navigating challenges instead of avoiding them. And this lived experience becomes the foundation of authentic belief in your capacity to adapt. This shift transforms pressure into purpose, because effort is no longer something imposed by others, but a choice you make in service of your own direction. And with each choice, you strengthen the connection between your intentions and your actions, creating a steady inner alignment that turns personal accountability into a source of strength and freedom. Controlling your thoughts and self-talk shapes the direction of your life, because the words you repeat in your mind become the lens through which you interpret every experience. And that lens quietly determines your emotions, decisions, and actions. Most people do not realize how automatic their inner dialogue has become, and without awareness, old doubts, fears, and inherited beliefs continue to run in the background, influencing behavior long after the original experiences have passed. When you begin to consciously guide your thoughts, you interrupt these patterns and replace reaction with intention, which gives you space to choose responses that align with your goals, instead of habits that keep you stuck. Self-talk is powerful because the brain does not distinguish well between what is imagined and what is repeatedly affirmed, so when you tell yourself that you are capable, adaptable, and committed, your nervous system begins to respond with calmer focus and greater willingness to take action. This does not mean denying challenges or pretending everything is easy. It means framing difficulties in a way that keeps your sense of agency intact, allowing you to acknowledge obstacles without surrendering your belief in your ability to navigate them. As you practice guiding your inner dialogue, you begin to notice how language influences emotion, because a single shift from "I can't" to "I'm learning to" can change your energy from resistance to engagement, and this shift affects how long you persist when results are slow. Over time, deliberate self-talk conditions your attention to search for progress instead of proof of failure, and this trains your mind to recognize small wins that reinforce momentum. Thought control also influences behavior through expectation, because when you expect growth, you prepare for effort, and preparation increases the likelihood that you will follow through when challenges appear. This mental discipline creates emotional stability as you become less reactive to temporary setbacks and less dependent on external validation for motivation. And with consistent practice, your inner voice becomes a source of direction rather than distraction, guiding your focus toward what you can influence and strengthening your ability to remain centered and purposeful in the face of uncertainty. Replacing fear with faith in your vision is the inner shift that allows you to move forward even when outcomes are uncertain, because fear thrives on imagined loss while faith is rooted in chosen meaning and direction. Fear is a natural response to the unknown, but when it becomes the primary voice guiding your decisions, it narrows your perception and convinces you that safety lies in staying the same, even when the current path is slowly draining your potential. Faith in your vision does not mean blind optimism or ignoring risks. It means choosing to trust your capacity to adapt, learn, and recover, no matter how events unfold. And this trust changes how you experience uncertainty, turning it from a threat into a space of possibility. When you hold faith in your direction, your mind becomes more resilient, because instead of interpreting setbacks as proof that you should stop, you see them as part of the process of refinement, which keeps your energy invested in progress rather than retreat. This inner posture affects your behavior in subtle but powerful ways because belief shapes preparation. And when you believe your efforts matter, you prepare more seriously. Why? Act more consistently and persist longer through discomfort. Fear tends to focus attention on what might go wrong, while faith redirects attention to what can be built. And attention determines what you notice, which in turn influences how you feel and what you choose to do next. As you practice replacing fear-based narratives with faith-based ones, you begin to interrupt automatic avoidance patterns, creating room for courageous action that gradually expands your comfort zone. Each time you take a step in alignment with your vision despite uncertainty, you gather evidence that you are capable of moving through discomfort, and this evidence weakens fear's authority over your choices. Over time, faith becomes less about believing in a perfect outcome and more about believing in your ability to stay aligned with your purpose through changing conditions. And this steadiness transforms pressure into motivation, because effort is no longer driven by the need to escape fear, but by the desire to honor the future you are consciously choosing to create. Daily discipline and consistent action are the quiet forces that turn intention into transformation, because change is rarely created by dramatic moments and almost always built through repeated ordinary choices that compound over time. Discipline is not about forcing yourself with harshness. It is about designing your days so that the actions aligned with your goals become easier to begin and harder to avoid. And this approach shifts effort from willpower to structure, which makes consistency more sustainable. When you commit to small daily actions, you reduce the emotional weight of starting, because your mind no longer faces the pressure of perfection, only the responsibility of showing up, and showing up trains your identity to see yourself as someone who follows through. Consistency reshapes your nervous system because repeated exposure to effort teaches your body that discomfort is temporary and manageable, reducing resistance and increasing your capacity to stay engaged when motivation fluctuates. Over time, these repeated actions create momentum, and momentum changes how challenges feel, because movement generates energy, clarity, and confidence that are difficult to access while standing still. Daily discipline also builds trust with yourself, because each kept commitment becomes evidence that your goals are not just ideas but priorities. And this internal trust strengthens self-respect, which naturally increases your willingness to aim higher. Consistent action refines your focus because repetition reveals what works and what does not, allowing you to adjust your approach based on feedback rather than fantasy. And this learning process accelerates progress by replacing guesswork with experience. As your habits align with your vision, your environment begins to reflect your standards because you make different choices about how you spend your time, who you associate with, and what influences you allow into your attention. This alignment reduces internal conflict because your actions no longer contradict your intentions, and this harmony creates a sense of calm determination that sustains long-term effort. Over time, discipline becomes less about control and more about care, because you recognize that consistent action is how you protect your future from the cost of inaction, and strengthen your ability to shape outcomes through deliberate practice. This entire message comes down to one truth. Your destiny does not change by chance, it changes by choice. And that choice is made in the quiet moments when no one is watching, when you decide to take responsibility, direct your thoughts, replace fear with belief, and act with discipline toward the future you claim to want. Every powerful transformation begins with a single decision followed by consistent action. And when your inner world aligns with your outer efforts, your life begins to move in a new direction, not overnig, but inevitably. Because the person you choose to become today determines the reality you will live tomorrow. I wish you strength to stay committed when it feels hard, clarity when the path feels uncertain, and courage to keep moving even when progress feels slow. Thank you for listening. Stay focused, stay disciplined, and remember, your future is built by the decisions you make today.